These are the divorce papers. It's final.
Divorce? No, how could you?
It's best to everyone's. But you paid
She
me.
had just brought a life into the world. Her body was still shaking, her hands still weak, her heart still open, and that was when they walked in. Not with flowers, not with congratulations, but with documents that would change her life forever. They handed her divorce papers while she was still bleeding from childbirth. They believed she was powerless. They believed she was nothing. What they did not know was that the woman lying in that hospital bed was worth more than $1 billion, and by the time the sun rose again, their entire world would begin to collapse. Stay with me, because this is not just a story about betrayal. It is a story about patience, dignity, and the quiet power of a woman the world underestimated. Who was this woman before the betrayal? Why did her own husband allow this humiliation? And what secret had she been carrying, silently, for years? Some fortunes are loud. Others are hidden until the moment they are needed. Was this cruelty planned? Was it desperation? Or was it the final mistake of people who mistook humility for weakness? By the end of this story, one truth will become painfully clear. Not every woman who is quiet is powerless. Her name was Valentina Marrow. She was not born into wealth. She was not raised in comfort. She grew up in a small apartment in Cleveland, Ohio, watching her mother count coins at the kitchen table, whispering prayers over unpaid bills. She learned early that survival required discipline and silence. Some children learned to dream loudly. Others learned to prepare quietly. Valentina was the second kind. By the time she was 8 years old, she was managing the household budget better than most adults. By 12, she was tutoring older students in mathematics for $5 an hour. By 16, she had saved enough to buy her first stock. Her teachers called her gifted. Her classmates called her strange. But Valentina did not care what people called her. She cared about results. Numbers spoke to her like music. Patterns revealed themselves to her like secrets whispered in the dark. She understood markets the way some people understood poetry. When she turned 18, Valentina received a full scholarship to study finance at Northwestern University. She worked 2 jobs while attending classes. She slept 4 hours a night. She graduated at the top of her class. But instead of accepting offers from Wall Street firms, she did something unexpected. She disappeared. For 3 years, no one knew where Valentina Marrow had gone. Not her professors, not her classmates, not even her mother, who had passed away quietly in her sleep 2 months after Valentina's graduation. The truth was, Valentina was building an empire in silence. She created investment portfolios under shell companies. She identified failing businesses with strong infrastructure and bought them for pennies on the dollar. She turned them profitable within months and sold them for millions. She operated under different names, different entities. She left no trail that connected back to her face. By the time she was 25 years old, Valentina Marrow had amassed a fortune worth over $800 million. And no one knew. But she wanted something money could not buy. She wanted love without conditions. She wanted a family that did not see her as a transaction. She wanted to be loved for who she was, not what she had. So she made a decision. She walked away from the public eye entirely. She rented a small apartment in Chicago. She took a modest job as a financial analyst at a mid-sized consulting firm. She lived simply. She dressed simply. She spoke simply. And that was when she met Andrew Whitmore. Andrew was charming in the way men from old money often are. Educated at Yale, well-spoken, confident but not loud. He worked at the same firm, though everyone knew he did not need to. His family name was enough to open any door. The Whitmore family had been in Chicago for 4 generations. They owned real estate. They sat on boards. They attended galas. They were the kind of people whose wealth was so old it had become invisible. Andrew told Valentina he loved how grounded she was, how she did not care about status or appearances, how refreshing it was to meet someone real. What he really loved was that she never talked about herself. She never asked for anything. She never made demands. She fit perfectly into the background of his life. And for a while, Valentina believed that was enough. She believed love could grow from quiet moments and shared routines. She believed Andrew saw her. 6 months after they met, he proposed. She said yes. They were married in a small ceremony at his family's estate. His mother, Eleanor Whitmore, smiled through the entire reception, but her eyes never warmed. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The first year of marriage was quiet. Andrew worked long hours. Valentina kept the house. She cooked meals, she attended family dinners. She smiled politely when Eleanor made comments about her simple upbringing. She said nothing when Andrew's sister Jessica asked where Valentina had bought her dress, as if the answer would confirm some unspoken suspicion. Valentina had learned long ago that silence was a form of protection. She did not correct them. She did not defend herself. She simply existed in the spaces they allowed her to occupy. But beneath the surface, Valentina was still working. She had not abandoned her investments. She had not stopped building. Late at night, while Andrew slept, she reviewed portfolios. She made calls to brokers under aliases. She moved money across accounts with the precision of a surgeon. Her wealth continued to grow. 900 million, 1 billion, 1.2 billion. And no one knew. Not Andrew. Not Eleanor. Not Jessica. No one. Valentina told herself it did not matter. She told herself that love was not about money, that Andrew had married her for who she was, not what she had. But deep down, a small voice whispered a question she did not want to answer. Would he have loved her if he knew? Or would he have seen her differently? Would his family have treated her with respect? Or would they have tried to control her? She did not know, and she was afraid to find out. Then she became pregnant. Andrew was thrilled. Eleanor was less so. At a family dinner 3 months into the pregnancy, Eleanor placed her hand on Valentina's stomach and said something that made Valentina's blood run cold. I hope this child has Andrew's strength. We cannot afford weakness in this family. Valentina smiled, but inside, something shifted. She began to see the way Eleanor looked at her, not as a daughter-in-law, but as a vessel, a temporary inconvenience, a problem to be managed. The pregnancy was difficult. Valentina's body struggled. She was hospitalized twice for complications. The doctors warned her that delivery would be risky. Andrew held her hand and promised everything would be fine. But when the contractions began 3 weeks early, Andrew was not there. He was at a business dinner with his mother. Valentina called him 4 times. He did not answer. She was rushed to the hospital alone. The labor lasted 14 hours. There were moments when the doctors thought they would lose her, moments when her heart rate dropped so low the monitors screamed. But Valentina fought. She fought for her son. She fought to survive. And when the baby finally came, crying and alive, Valentina wept, not from pain, but from relief. She had done it. She had brought him into the world. She held him against her chest and whispered promises she intended to keep. Promises of protection, of love, of a life better than the one she had known. The nurses cleaned her up. They stitched her wounds. They told her to rest. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in months, she felt at peace. That peace lasted less than 12 hours. The knock on the door came at 6 in the morning. Valentina was still weak, still in pain. Her son was asleep in the bassinet beside her bed. She thought it was a nurse, or maybe Andrew, finally arriving after the dinner that had kept him away all night. But when the door opened, it was Eleanor, and behind her, Jessica. And behind them, Andrew. Their faces were not soft. They were not warm. They were the faces of people who had made a decision. Eleanor spoke first. We need to talk. Valentina tried to sit up, but the pain in her abdomen made her gasp. Jessica stepped forward and placed a folder on the bed. This is for your own good, she said. Valentina looked at Andrew. He would not meet her eyes. She opened the folder. Inside were divorce papers, fully prepared, fully legal. Her name already typed into every line. All that was missing was her signature. What is this? Valentina's voice was barely a whisper. Eleanor folded her arms. This marriage was a mistake. We see that now. You do not belong in this family, Valentina. You never did. Jessica nodded. You have nothing to offer us. No name, no connections, no resources. Andrew deserves better. And so does this child. Valentina looked at her son. He was so small, so fragile. She thought about all the promises she had just made to him. Promises she now realized were under attack. You want to take my son? Eleanor's smile was thin. We want to give him the life he deserves. A life you cannot provide. Sign the papers, Valentina. We will be generous. You will receive a settlement. Enough to live comfortably. But the child stays with us. Valentina looked at Andrew. Is this what you want? He hesitated. For a moment, she thought she saw something in his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or guilt. But then Eleanor placed a hand on his shoulder, and whatever he might have felt disappeared. It's what's best, he said quietly. Valentina's hands began to shake. Not from fear, but from something else, something deeper. A rage so quiet it felt like ice forming in her veins. She had spent years hiding who she was, years pretending to be less than she was, years believing that love was worth the sacrifice. But in this moment, she understood something she had been too afraid to admit. They did not love her. They had never loved her. They had tolerated her, used her, and now they were discarding her, like she was nothing. Eleanor stepped closer. "Sign the papers, Valentina. Do not make this harder than it needs to be." Valentina looked down at the documents, at the lines waiting for her signature, at the legal language that would erase her from her son's life. She thought about her mother, about the nights spent counting coins, about the years spent building something from nothing, about the empire she had created in silence. And then she looked up at Eleanor. "Give me a moment," Valentina said. Eleanor laughed. "A moment for what? To cry? To beg? You have no leverage here, Valentina. No power. No options." Valentina did not respond. She reached for her phone. Her hands were steady now. Eleanor watched her with amusement. Jessica smirked. Andrew looked away. Valentina opened her phone and pulled up the news. And then everything changed. The headline was simple: Whitmore Holdings acquired in surprise takeover. Eleanor's face went pale. Jessica's smirk vanished. Andrew finally looked at Valentina. She turned the phone toward them. "I bought it," Valentina said quietly. 3 days ago. Every share, every asset, every building. It is mine now." The room was silent. Eleanor reached for the phone, but Valentina pulled it back. "I have been buying pieces of your company for the last 2 years. Slowly. Carefully? Through shell corporations you never thought to investigate. I now own 73% of Whitmore Holdings. The board voted yesterday to approve the transition. As of this morning, I am the majority shareholder. And the CEO." Jessica's voice cracked. "That is impossible. You do not have that kind of money." Valentina smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You never asked, you never cared. You saw what you wanted to see. A simple woman. A nobody. Someone you could control." She looked at Andrew. "I loved you. I thought you loved me. But you never even wondered who I was. You never asked about my life before we met. You never cared. Because I was convenient. I was quiet. I was easy." Eleanor's hands were shaking now. "You cannot do this. We will fight you. We will take this to court." Valentina shook her head. "You can try. But every lawyer in this city knows who I am now. And they know what I am worth. You have no power here, Eleanor. Not anymore." Andrew stepped forward. "Valentina, please, we can talk about this. We can work something out." Valentina looked at him. Really looked at him. And she felt nothing. "You stood there and watched them try to take my son. You did not defend me. You did not protect me. You chose them." She picked up the divorce papers. "I will sign these. But not because you want me to. Because I want to. Because I will not spend one more day pretending to be less than I am. Because my son deserves better than a father who would sell his mother for approval." She signed the papers with steady hands. Then she handed them back to Jessica. "You are free, all of you. But so am I." Eleanor's voice was sharp. "You will regret this." Valentina looked at her. "No, I will not. But you will." Valentina left the hospital 2 days later with her son in her arms. She moved into a penthouse she had owned for 3 years under a different name. She hired the best nanny in Chicago, the best security team, the best lawyers. Andrew tried to call. She did not answer. Eleanor tried to visit. Security turned her away. Jessica sent letters. Valentina burned them without reading. The Whitmore family tried to fight the takeover. They hired lawyers. They held press conferences. They claimed fraud. But Valentina had been meticulous. Every transaction was legal. Every document was filed. Every step was documented. The courts dismissed their claims within weeks. The media had a field day. Mystery billionaire revealed. Valentina Marrow, the woman who built an empire in silence. Forbes ran a cover story. Bloomberg requested an interview. Valentina declined them all. She did not want fame. She did not want attention. She wanted peace. She restructured Whitmore Holdings and renamed it Marrow Enterprises. She sold off the parts that did not align with her vision. She donated millions to causes that mattered to her. Women's shelters, education programs, healthcare initiatives. She built the kind of legacy her mother would have been proud of. 6 months later, Andrew showed up at her building. Security called her. She considered turning him away. but something made her agree to see him. He looked smaller than she remembered. Tired. He sat across from her in the lobby and said nothing for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "I am sorry." Valentina nodded. "I know. I was weak. Yes, I should have protected you." "Yes." He looked at her. "Can I see him? Our son?" Valentina thought about it. She thought about all the ways he had failed her, all the ways he had chosen comfort over courage. But she also thought about her son, about the kind of man she wanted him to become. "Yes," she said, "but not because you deserve it. Because he deserves to know his father, even if his father was not strong enough to fight for him when it mattered." Andrew's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." Valentina stood. "Do not thank me, Andrew. Just do better." Valentina raised her son with patience and wisdom. She taught him the value of hard work, of integrity, of kindness. She never spoke poorly of his father, but she also never lied about what had happened. When he was old enough to ask, she told him the truth. Your father loved you, but he was afraid, and fear makes people small. Her son grew up strong, grounded, kind. He did not carry the weight of his parents' mistakes. He carried the lessons Valentina had worked so hard to teach him. That power without character is meaningless. That wealth without purpose is empty. That the strongest people are often the quietest. The Whitmore family faded from prominence. Eleanor's health declined. Jessica moved to Europe. Andrew remarried, though Valentina heard it did not last. She felt no satisfaction in their struggles, only a quiet sense of closure. She had not sought revenge. She had simply refused to be erased. Years later, a journalist asked Valentina what she would say to women facing similar situations. She thought about it for a long time. Then she said, "Do not let anyone convince you that silence is weakness. Sometimes silence is preparation. Sometimes it is protection. And sometimes it is the space where your power grows. Trust yourself, build yourself. And when the moment comes, stand." Valentina Mero became a reminder that humility is not weakness, that silence can be strategy, and that underestimating someone may be the most expensive mistake of all. She lived the rest of her life on her own terms. She built companies. She mentored young women. She created opportunities for people who reminded her of herself. People who were underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. And every time someone tried to make her small, she remembered the hospital room, the divorce papers, the moment she decided she would never be powerless again, not because of money, but because of choice. What would you have done in her place? Would you have revealed the truth earlier? Or would you have waited, as she did, for the right moment? Do you believe patience is always rewarded? Or was Valentina simply wise enough to see what others could not? If stories like this move you, stories with meaning, depth, and lessons that stay with you long after they end, subscribe for more, because the next story is even more powerful, and you will not want to miss it.